Hello, and welcome to Inner Peace Counseling Services. I'm Dr. Angela Hargrove,
Hi everyone, it's Tasha Ganthier and Sherry Green.
and we are so happy to join you today. We want to follow up on our previous Facebook Live presentation where we were talking about self-advocacy. We got cut off somewhere in there. We don't know what happened. Tasha was finishing up on sort of personal relationship self-advocacy, and I had talked about medical, how to advocate for yourself in medical settings, because we were just running into so many people who weren't getting their needs met when it comes to their medical conditions, their general physical health, and they were struggling. And so Sherry was actually going to pick up with career self-advocacy, and then we'll talk a little bit about that this week.
Okay, do you want me to start?
Yeah,
sure. So let's talk a little bit about career. We did a presentation not so long ago
about careers.
If you don't like what you do for a living, you don't like, change it.
Right.
And so part of advocating for yourself in your career is to first recognize and have an appreciation for what is your marketable strength that you're bringing to whatever position you're in. And sometimes where you are, the people around you or the administration around you, or even the way that the facility or wherever you work, it's not designed to respect or appreciate your marketable strength.
Or your values.
Your values, yeah. And so the other thing that I like to tell people is, in terms of sitting with yourself and recognizing this marketable strength, you should also know when to invest in it.
Right.
So that it feels like a strength as well. So that you know this is what I'm bringing to the table. So when we talk to people, at least in my practice, when I talk to people about wherever they're working, they don't recognize or respect their strengths, I ask them, is this a good fit for you? Sometimes they'll tell me it's a good fit, but they're not recognizing me because I'm not promoting myself. Or I am not advocating for myself and letting people know, look, I have these additional talents and strengths, and I'd like to use them for you.
Right.
And so that's the other thing that we talk about, in my practice with people in terms of self-advocacy in the workplace, okay? If they do find that they're in a place that's toxic for them or doesn't promote their strengths or doesn't really recognize their value, then I like to remind them that you're not stuck. You can move.
Right.
You can move your strengths. You can find a better fit. And Angela, you say something that I think is really helpful. You tell people, make use of where you are.
Right. So a lot of times jobs offer additional training, or you can go to a conference, or you can learn a different skill. So while you're there, you should get everything you need to get out of that job, out of that position, out of that person. I mean, you have people around you with different talents and skills. So you want to glean all that you can get while you're there, so it has some purpose, some reason. Like you leave there with something more than what you came with.
But I think, unfortunately, sometimes that we've talked about in the past, when you're struggling with anxiety or depression and some of these other symptoms, or life challenges or transition or caretaking issues with older parents or young children or special needs children, people get stuck in their emotions at work and sometimes bring those things to them to work and don't realize that in actuality you're creating more of a detrimental environment for yourself. So you're walking into the workplace already believing that something is wrong.
Right.
And then when you get to the workplace and it's toxic because you're dealing with so many different people, or not even toxic, but it's overwhelming because you have to multitask, now you feel like the environment is really the problem. But in actuality, like we talked about before, is you're not coping well. And a big part of self-advocacy is going to be recognizing that if I'm not coping well, what are the things that I need to learn to do in the workplace, in my personal life, that will allow me to function in every environment? Because some people don't function well in environments because they just don't know how to cope well.
And they're bringing their own toxicity.
Yes.
Right.
So it may not be that the environment that you're going to is toxic, but that you're bringing in some toxicity.
Right.
And so one of the things that you do in terms of coping is, first of all, be able to sit with yourself, recognize that there's some things that's going on that I need to take care of. And some of it is developing some balance and coping strategy as a coping strategy. That, there's got to be a place where this is the end of work and this is the beginning of relaxation, or this is the beginning of me doing some self-care, or I'm taking off my work hat and I'm putting on mom hat or wife hat or husband hat, or dad.
Yeah, that's really, really strong and positive, what we call compartmentalization. Now, some theories of psychotherapy don't agree with compartmentalization. They believe you should become one whole person in the process of your whole life. But for practice, what we do, we tell people, you could be whole, but it's okay to know how to transition from one environment to the other. That is really effective compartmentalization, meaning that when I come into this office, I leave my stuff at home. I don't bring my stuff with me from home into this space with my clients because I don't want them to feel my energy and my toxicity of what's going on in my life if it's negative. I'd rather you appreciate the positive nature of who I am and feel safer in that environment with me. The same thing when I leave here. I leave my work here. We go on and we go into our personal lives and we help live healthy lives and we separate them. My social life is also not connected to my personal life. And if I'm dressing up to go meet a girlfriend after work, I'm going to leave my personal. What happens a lot is sometimes we, especially women, not so much men, will get into these relationships at work and don't know how to separate them and don't know how to compartmentalize them. And then we create a toxic stew of unnecessary energy in our lives that make us feel like we can't function in these environments. And it's because you're not coping well. You're not identifying how to really advocate for the life that you want, set the boundaries that you need with people, and be able to function in each environment and just know that I'm always in transition. We're always in transition. Sherry says it all the time. We're always in transition because change is inevitable. But we jump to change. Go ahead, Angela.
I was going to say, I often advocate for people to actually find things outside of work that they enjoy. I mean, when you finish with work, especially if your work environment is not a great environment or a place that is very healthy and you end up drained, then you need to transition to environments that rejuvenate you, that help you feel better, that help you grow, that you can actually fill up before you go back into work the next day. And so it's important that you find those spaces. So whether it's with family, without family, you need some of both. You need to be able to do it for yourself individually and also with the people that you care about.
And we talk about transitions a lot, and there should be a transition between work and your other areas of life. Your work value, the value, your career value, right, is only a part of who you are. And so sometimes people begin to kind of have that, whatever happens at work, whatever they're saying at work, that transitions to who they think they are as a whole person in their other relationships, and vice versa, of course. But since we're talking about career, who you are at work and what value they attribute to what you're bringing to the marketplace there, that's not all of who you are. So then balance is really important in terms of transitioning from one activity and from one area of your life where you can kind of promote other strengths that you have. And it feels good and it fortifies you. It enables you to better tolerate stress at work.
And that's the biggest part. So we're going to try to tie this all together for you so you guys can have a clearer understanding. When it comes to self-advocacy, we use 3 areas. We use medical, relationship, and career. Those are the areas that we deal with the most when it comes to psychotherapy. And these are the areas that are connected to who you are physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Because medically, you can't work if you're sick all the time. Right? You can't engage in your personal relationships with family and develop healthy relationships with new partners or find romantic relationships if you're not healthy completely. And there's no way you're going to have a strong and healthy career if you're not able to identify who you are in these areas and really learn to advocate for yourself in the workplace. Meaning that if you're sick, you know, it doesn't matter how stressful or pressure you're on or what deadlines you have, you're sick. You know, a lot of times we get this from clients who will come in and say, well, I have to go to work, I got to work. Well, I'm sorry, you have bronchitis. How are you going to work? Well, I'm not that bad. I finished my medication. I'm sorry, did the doctor clear you to go back to work? Because they're under pressure and believe in this false idea that I'm going to lose my job. And I had this big project and I don't want anyone else to have the project. I want it to be mine. What is going on?
And they have decided my only value is the value that someone else at work has attributed to me. So I'm not important enough to take care of myself physically and emotionally. And that has to be the priority. That if you're not your best healthy self, physically, emotionally, spiritually, your whole self, then what you bring to work is not going to be your best. And so it's not going to have the greatest value. You're less marketable. Less.
And I'd also add that sometimes we're in these environments where we're getting piled on work after work after work. And you have to say when enough's enough, when you can't handle anymore. Because if they break you down at work, you don't have enough energy to do anything else. And so you have to say, this is my limit. This is where my capacity. I am at capacity, and I can't handle not one more thing.
Absolutely.
And so we often get afraid to do that because we're worried about losing our job, and I don't want to minimize that fear.
Absolutely.
But that obviously is not the place for you, because this place will knock you down. You'll be sick in a hospital, and they will replace you.
What else will be in that seat within next week?
And so you have to decide, here's my limit, and what do I need to do in the meantime to find something else or do something else so that I can feel safe in my workplace and give my best without them taking every last ounce of money.
And that leads into, I think, probably the best way to go cap on to our next conversation, because we're going to continue this conversation for people about self-advocacy, living your best life, or until the new year. But we want to start talking about, which we're getting a lot. I think Sherry has talked about it. Angela's talked to me about it. We're getting a lot of people who have unfortunately had really, really poor relationships with money and finances. And this creates this deluge of false belief that you're bound to your job because that's where your money is coming from, instead of recognizing that if I develop a better relationship with money and set certain standards for my lifestyle, that I can leave a job when it becomes too much. I can actually get up and say, I got about 6 months worth of savings. I don't have to deal with this. I can leave and go on and start.
You first got to get there.
Yes, you have to get there.
Absolutely.
But the goal is to get there, because a lot of us, unfortunately, especially women, don't have enough resources, and we get stuck at work, get sick, and we're the ones with hypertension, heart disease, vascular disease, uterine diseases,
diabetes,
high
blood pressure,
pain. All of a sudden, we're having more pain management issues with our female clients than anything else. And we're going to talk about that in the aspect of, what are you doing with your money? Because money is not money. Money is actually time. That's what the biggest lesson for me as a professional woman was, learning that money has nothing to do with my value. Money equals time and freedom and ability to do more for myself rather than do more for others. So I think with the next Facebook Live event, we need to really go deeper into this topic about advocacy. And maybe let's talk about financial appropriation and what our relationship with money looks like. And we have a few tips that we give people. I do a lot of financial stuff with couples that I work with about spreadsheets and reviewing where your money is going, and how to change up the conversation about money with people, how to say no. That's a big part of advocacy, is being able to say, no, I can't help you.
And to understand the capacity of the dollar.
Yes.
The dollar is not you.
No.
So to recognize, and so what trumps the capacity of the dollar is your capacity, is what you're able to do. So if you're not a person, like Angela said, that is able to meet this job expectations, it's just more than you can do, it's a bad fit, even if the money feels like it's a good fit. Maybe the truth is the way you manage your money is also a bad fit.
Right. So we can talk more about that, especially with the holidays coming up. It's going to be important that we make good decisions around the holidays. So we thank you, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.